I'm Sasha King from 221 Mental Health Charity, and today we're joined on Mental Chats by Arne. Thanks so much for being here, Arne.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's exciting and scary, I guess. Right now it's a bit of a different time, but it's good to connect with people if it's even only just digitally. It's good to see your face and it's good to have a chat.
Yeah, awesome. So before we get started, I just want to know a little bit about you. Can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Arne. I use the pronouns he, him. I'm 19. I live in Darwin. Right now I live in my house. But when I do get to do whatever I want, I do really enjoy sports. I like skateboarding. That's something that I've done from a very young age. Golf's another sport that I like. So I'm active. I like socializing. It's good to be in contact with my friends. I'm in the climate justice, like activism space. I think that's a really important space. And yeah, I work in youth programming. So it's an exciting space, kind of, create and run programs which educate, elevate, and just, give a spotlight to young voices and young people's needs and the issues they face.
So the first question I have for you is I want to know, what does mental health mean to you?
Yeah, I guess mental health encapsulates what we feel and the stance that we take on the way that we kind of come to the world and the way we start every day and the way that we proceed through the day. And I guess it's really a thing about, for me, just acknowledging a lot of those thoughts that I have when they're not nice ones, but it's not so much that I need to feel that I own them. It's just that I should be aware of them, and that, with taking a positive approach to that, it's about looking at certain things that might not be great and trying to maybe frame them in a way that makes it a little bit easier to just recognize them rather than, say, ignoring them completely, because I think that's what often leads to downward spiraling if we're really just getting things and putting them on the side and not recognizing them and working towards some better alternatives, or putting in place some kind of solutions or something that will really lead us in the right direction.
Yeah, so that sort of connection of your thoughts are impacted by everything and do impact our perspectives and things like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I guess for me, there's always been a bit of a struggle. I have a bit of maybe a fixation sometimes when there's something that comes to mind that's not great. And it's not that that's going to stop happening. I think that's a really maybe bad way to approach it. It's probably a more realistic approach to say, these thoughts are unexpected and maybe they're not great, but as much as they are real, there is options and there is mechanisms to really approach them, with a bit more strength and a bit more, skills and capacity that can allow for these little hurdles, big hurdles to become little hurdles, or with the toolbox or the repertoire of skills and knowledge that I have, that I can then come to the table and say, you're a scary thought, but you're a thought that I'm going to acknowledge and that I'm going to proceed and work with. And that can be a really positive approach, and that can lead to a solution.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that we all are geared towards taking those negative thoughts more seriously, or they're more prominent in our mind. I think that's a normal thing, and some really great tips for people to recognize that.
Yeah, for sure.
So you gave us a little bit of insight of some of your thoughts, but can you tell us a little bit more about how mental health has been a part of your life?
Yeah, for sure. I guess there's definitely been periods where I've not really acknowledged the significance of mental health, which is, I think, something we see across society, which is a bit of an issue. I'd say mental health is a really significant matter. And I guess for me, there's been just periods through my childhood where I've maybe felt socially isolated, or that being honest with who I am hasn't necessarily been well accepted. And not that has to put me down, but at times it doesn't feel great when, I guess, who you're surrounded by, whether that is close friends and family, or if that is just people in society as you walk down the street that maybe don't think of you positively, that can kind of get on your mind and bring you down a little and sit on your shoulders. One of the big things, I lived in Alice Springs previously, and I've moved from Alice Springs to Darwin now, and that was in, I think, 2013, and that was just entering into high school. So moving meant that a lot of my friends didn't stay with me, or I couldn't, go and skate with them, or I couldn't go and play soccer with the same people. And I guess that was a hurdle that I faced because, yeah, digital communication is probably not my strong suit. I'm definitely improving by all means right now. But yeah, it's that sense of being connected and feeling that there's a place for you in that community. And when that connection isn't great and then you're removed from that community, that's the best version of connection you've ever had. So then if you come to a new place, maybe it's a really, it's a big staircase to climb because you've been halfway up it and then you've got told that there's actually a different staircase you should be climbing. I guess that's kind of maybe what it felt like for me in that time. And then more recently, I guess I was, pretty engaged with school, which is great. And I was really looking to do quite well academically, and I think I did do well. I think there was some push from, I guess, some of my peers to engage with some kind of activities that I wasn't super keen on. And I guess that really presented a pretty big struggle because I guess I was really engaged with them and they were friends and they were good quality people. There was just components of their decisions or components of the ways that they like to spend their time doing certain things that I wasn't quite in touch with. And I think it was a struggle at times for me to kind of acknowledge that I had principles and that they did as well, but they didn't necessarily align. And that in essence, the best I can do is be available as a friend at times when they want to access me. And then I guess the last component that I think I'd speak to is me, and just something that's been maybe not a struggle necessarily, but something that I've had to be aware of is that over time, different parts of my kind of life are going to be changing. Things are fluid, things aren't business as usual as always, and that I have to kind of be accepting of that. So I think maybe for 2 years between 2017 and 2019, there was times where I didn't really like skateboarding, which isn't such a big thing for a lot of people. But I guess when I've been skateboarding since the age of 10, that fills a lot of my weekends. That fills a lot of the time between eating dinner, say, or like finishing school and eating dinner through my schooling years, that it felt weird that there was now spaces and times which I couldn't fill with hobbies that I'd enjoyed before. And I think what that really comes to is like right now we have a lot of hobbies that we like and they're less accessible or they're not at arm's reach. And that makes them a lot easier to just forget about. And then regularity that's provided is lost. And then there's confusion and there's times and there's just thinking opportunities, and it doesn't always go well. It can spiral down. So it's about, acknowledging change, but keeping in front of mind the hobbies that are positive for us and continuing to engage with them on a regular and hopefully daily basis. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all of that. I think really struggles that a lot of people would be going through right now are sort of similar things around socialization and sort of forming your own strength around what are my decisions and what are my values and how do they fit with the people around me. So my next question for you, Arne, is I want to know, is there any things that you can recognize when you might be having some mental health problems or feeling like a little bit not as in much control as your mental health? What things can you notice that change?
Yeah, I guess one way of saying that is nothing, but that's really just denying it. Yeah, there is for sure quite a few things that become pretty obvious when these thoughts are kind of weighing on me and that I'm not, giving myself time to do a lot of these things that I really enjoy. I think that's one of the main indicators that I see. So I would say I like to meditate in the mornings. Sometimes I don't get time for that. Sometimes that's because I've got a busy day. So if that happens once a week, that's understandable. But if that's becoming, say, 2 weeks straight that I'm not doing that, I think that becomes really obvious. Things like giving myself time to cook or giving myself time to switch off my phone before I go to bed, these kind of things. I think, yeah, when I get too busy doing things that aren't necessary, that's a really good indicator that my mental health might need a little bit more time, or you might just give myself an opportunity to think. Or I guess there's been moments in my life where I've not been so willing to access support, and I think that's a really good indicator. I guess there might be a need for it if I'm having to tell myself that there's no need for it. I guess there's some of the indicators, and then there's things like I I like to have a shower before I go to bed, and it's really good to warm your body before you sleep so you can get a better quality of sleep. But I guess if I'm staying up late on my phone doing things that don't really matter and then trying to just go to sleep, that's not going to help me. So I would say, it's obvious that there's a need for a bit more time to address my mental health, or that my mental health is going a little bit wayward if and when I'm not giving myself time to enjoy hobbies and enjoy important parts of my life. Yeah,
I think it's really important to acknowledge that it's not always that you stop doing everything, it's that you fill your time with other stuff that isn't important to you. So sometimes maybe when your mental health is poor, is actually you're really busy, but you're not doing those things that normally bring you joy and that you really want to be doing.
Yeah, and I think another thing in the conversation is that like our weeks change and how busy we are changes. So it's not always about pointing our finger at ourselves. Like the way that mental health works, I think, is that we're responsible for components of our thoughts, but equally, the way that we live our life or the way that our day goes. So if that's a bad day, that presents an issue that we need to kind of work with. So there's our own personal thoughts, but then there's also like components of life that kind of mesh together, and that we could be approaching like our mental health and being really positive and being really nice to ourselves. But in the instance that we just have a few days that are like horrendous, it's only reasonable that the mental health would maybe have some struggles. Like, I think it's fair to acknowledge that, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And society can be, a huge impact on our mental health without us doing anything, or with us being really positive. Some days are just going to be busy or hard or, stressful. We have a lot of pressures from society or friends or family or whoever's around us.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a reality.
So I want to know, do you feel like you've had any lessons learned or positives going through some of these struggles?
Yeah, I'd say for sure. I think one example is when I was reffing soccer, I got a lot of abuse. I was a young referee. A lot of the people who I was reffing were men, I guess 20 to 30, 40 years old. So, grown men, and the language and the kind of words they were using is quite abusive. I guess over time, I just realized that the words didn't have a lot in them. It's just people making sounds at me. And I mean, at times it's not easy when there's a lot of it, but I guess when we recognize that, so the lesson learned would be that not everything coming towards you in terms of the way people are addressing you or the way that society looks at you is necessarily a true reflection whatsoever. So regardless if I reffed a game well or poorly, I'm still going to be copying that. So not to use that as an indicator of my, success or the way that I've performed. A better way, maybe, for example, in this example, would be to ask, say, a mentor in my refereeing course, did I ref that game well? Did I make that call correctly? And if they say, yeah, you did, then that's maybe a better reflection because that person's informed. Mental health is a constant thing. It's never not a thing. It's just how well are we looking after ourselves, so that we need to consistently be putting time in, and that we consistently need to be aware, and that we need to just continue to work towards positive kind of mental health. That is, I guess, one of the lessons that I've learned. And I guess the second lesson that I would probably speak about would be the value of close friends and family. I think sometimes I feel like things are really big and the struggles are just wouldn't be understood by another person. But just speaking about it, and even if they don't understand it, just being aware that person's willing to listen, and accessing those support services. So that includes getting a counselor, for example, or seeing a psychologist. That's been something that I've sometimes had a struggle with, giving myself that opportunity. But the people that are out there really do want to help. It's just that we need to kind of connect with them, and that they will listen and that they will do the best they can to help us. So despite the fact that my mental health is my mental health, the people willing to support me is a large number, and that together that's a lot more effective of a solution.
Yeah, I really like your ability to kind of acknowledge what's going on and be able to see the perspectives around it. I think that's a really big strength of yours, and shown through those examples of some things that you've been through, and yeah, your ability to cope with change and how you're coping right now is also a version of that as well.
Yeah, right now is a good, I guess it's a good time to really dial in on the mental health how-tos and how not tos. I guess right now is different, and that's maybe something that is hard and it is a struggle, because I guess I like to go to work on Monday and knock off on Friday, and that's normality for me. But when it's in my house, it doesn't quite feel right. So I guess, yeah, just keeping those front of mind, the solutions that we have, and framing it in a way that is both reflective and positive, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would like to know, it is pretty stressful right now, and it is everyone's going through times of change. And what do you think is a really good coping strategy for people to take on board, or something that's worked for you in times where it's been really unknown or changing?
Yeah, I think something that is always a good answer is just like being excited about doing something that might not be familiar. So like scheduling all of my meetings for work on my computer sounds a bit weird, because I normally talk to people and like look at their face rather than a screen. But I guess one of the ways that I've been trying to frame that is, how effective can I be? Quite effective if I don't have to travel to meetings, if I don't have to do all that kind of stuff, and I can just dial in, chat for 30 minutes and keep going. That's really positive. And I guess another component that I've been speaking about, which is just relevant regardless of the context, is the habits. So I've been waking up at 7 o'clock as I normally do, and I've been walking my dog. I've been cooking a nice breakfast. I've been, chatting with my mom and dad in the morning, going to work, even if that's just at a desk in the living room. And then I have my lunch break in my calendar. So it's about giving yourself time, allocating the same time that you allocated for yourself previously, and then to implement that and be rigid. It's not to, be mean to yourself when you don't get there, but to say, I'm as allowed as I was when I wasn't in my house solely, to enjoy my hobbies, enjoy my downtime, and enjoy socializing. Even if it's in a different form, there's still a time and a space for those things, and it should be just as big as it was before. That's kind of the thoughts that I have on that one.
Yeah, and that's really awesome, sort of like giving yourself permission to still have fun and still enjoy the things that you're doing, even though it looks different.
It sounds weird to say like I'm allowed a 1 hour lunch break, but like I am, and I should take it and I should enjoy it. I'm lucky. I have a pool. I have a garden with some green stuff in it. It's nice to just sit in there and just be in that space and enjoy, a podcast or whatever I'd like, to do in that time. But yeah, when we have these moments, whether it's, out as we normally like to be, or in as we are now, that there's still opportunities to do the things that we like to do. It might just be in a form that's a little bit different, using something digital, or maybe not seeing the face of the person we're talking to, but, talking to them and listening to their words just as much as we would otherwise, and building, positive, relationships and just being in touch, I think, yeah.
I think that is just the perfect sort of statement to finish this interview on. People, enjoy your time, be flexible with the way that you do things, have fun. Like Arne said, give yourself permission to have as much time off and as much downtime as you need. Thanks so much for joining us, Arne.
Oh, good. Thanks, Sasha. Yeah. Thanks everyone for, tuning in, and be smart, be safe, and look after yourselves, including your mental health.
All right. Bye, everyone.